Hey guys, I'm going to show you the features of Slamdrum for both processed and raw versions. They're both exactly the same, it's just the samples that are different. So when you first open your session of Slamdrum, you will see you have a shells instrument here. Each shell has a dedicated panner, dedicated phase invert, dedicated mute, and solo switch. They all do exactly what you would think that they would do. Panning does the panning, phase invert flips the phase. Solo is just your kick in or your kick sub, whatever you hit solo. Mutes whatever you are on there, so kick in would be muted. The overhead and rooms, though, they don't have panning. They have it's basically like a stereo width effect, which you can pull down to mono, which is where the effect will technically take place since it is a stereo file. So if you wanted mono overheads and rooms, you just flip those down. If you wanted 50% mono, 50% stereo, you just flip them 50%, and then all the way to the right, which is the original file, which is stereo, which does also have phase invert, solo, and mute, as well as your master fader. So then below here, you can see our yellow text in these boxes. These are your routing for each channel. So let's say you wanted your kick in to go to your kick in, and then your kick sub to go to kick sub, so on and so forth, room to room. So then you can route out of contact very nice and easy. At the bottom of the instrument in the silver area, you will see that we have an overhead control. Kick snare, accent snare, and your toms. So this can control the amount of kick drum snare, accent snare, and toms going to your overheads just by moving those. On the other side, we have a room control. It's exactly the same thing, except it's the amount of kick, snare, or toms going to your rooms. In the middle of the instrument right here, we can see that we have a little menu that we can hit. Right now it's on snare low. The main snare in this instrument has two tunings, a low tuning and a high tuning. So you can easily swap between the two, see which one you like better, but it also has a both option. So it has the high and low tune snare both being played at the same time in phase with one another. Below that you can see we have a snare bottom bleed control. This is my favorite part about Slamdrum, because we can control the amount of snare rattle when your kicks are hit or your toms are hit, which is a very realistic thing when a drummer were to play his drum set. One last thing in this instrument is this advanced option page, which you can go and change your MIDI for any instrument. In this case, it's the shells, so your kick, your snares, and your four toms. Also has a learn function, which is very, very handy. And that's it for the shells instrument. So let's move on to the cymbal instrument. Cymbal instrument, you can see here, it's very, very similar. You have your three direct mics here, which are, they have panning, solo, and a mute, as well as your main fader. Now if we come over here, we have our overhead and we have our room here, which is identical to the overhead and room in the shells instrument, but we also added the spot section here, which is a pair of stereo microphones that are closer to your cymbals just to catch the cymbal detail a little bit better rather than the overheads that were a bit higher. And that is the exact same as the overheads in rooms, which it has that stereo to mono effect, solo, mute, as well as your main spot master fader. And then below those you also have your outputs. Now if we come down here to the silver part here, you can see we don't have anything in the middle here, but that's okay because there's no snare drum. So what we have is spot mic controls, which controls the amount of each cymbal going to your spot group. So say you wanted a little bit more of the stacks in your spots because you like the cymbal, but there's not enough detail for you. You can just turn that up, or you can turn everything else down, which will bring out the stacks more in your stack group. Then again, we have another advanced option page in the cymbal instrument, and we go there and it's your MIDI mapping for every cymbal. Your chokes, your pedals, your ride bells, your bells. So very, very handy, and I hope this helped with some of you trying to figure out what everything did. Thanks.